guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to be doing the end of the year video that you're probably seeing everyone do right about now. It is all of the books that I read in 2023. Now on my Goodreads, I read 95 books, which is 25 over my yearly goal. So I did accomplish my Goodreads goal this year. Very proud of myself. I honestly did not know if I was even going to reach 70, but I almost read 100 books, which is quite literally insane. I have all of the books sitting here. I reread one book, and that book I am not including in here. So I have about 93. In this video, I'm going to be talking about the ones that stand out to me, but if you want to know my top reads of the year, I will mention them in here, but also if you want to hear more about them and what they're about, I do have a favorite reads of 2023 video that I will put above, just in case you want to see the books that really stood out to me and I absolutely loved. And I do have monthly reading wrap-ups for pretty much every month of this year, so if you want to see the star ratings, because I don't think I'm going to do the star ratings, but I will mention how I felt, if I remember the book, if I even remember I read it this year, and all of that stuff, because I feel like that's easier to talk about. So if you want to see more in depth, go to my reading wrap-ups or go to my favorites video. That's the preface I wanted to make, so let's get into the book. The first book that I read this year was Indigo Ridge by Devoney Perry. I remember loving this book. It had a little mystery, and it's a small town, that sort of vibe. I enjoyed it. One of my favorite small town series. Juniper Hill, which is my absolute favorite in the series. I think about these characters a lot. I love this book. Not one of my favorite books of all time, but definitely memorable. I enjoyed it. Garnet Flats, I remember not liking this book. I really didn't like the characters. I didn't like the storyline. I thought the male main character was a little annoying, and I just didn't really care for this one. It's probably my least favorite in the series, if I'm gonna be honest, so. Then I read one of my favorite books of all time, Darling Venom by Parker S. Huntington. Check the trigger warnings for this book, but it's amazing. I love it so much, and it's very underrated. I feel like not a lot of people talk about it, and more people should, because wow, was I blown away by this book. Bad Reputation by Kristen Becker Ritchie. Another favorite read of this year, because this is a sort of continuation to the Addicted Calloway sister series, and if you don't know me, the Addicted Calloway is my favorite series of all time. It's very much found family, no plot, all character based, and I love it. So this is a bind up of two characters. Loved it so much. I read Binding and Keeping 13 by Chloe Walsh. These are the first two books in the Boys of Toman series. I absolutely love them so much. Very similar to the Addicted Calloway with found family, very character based and not a lot of plot. It does deal with abuse in family. I would check the trigger warnings for that if you're gonna read it. I really love this. This is my second favorite series of all time. I will say Keeping 13 is the best book in the series, in my opinion. Ow! I just threw a fucking book. Anyways, I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy. This is her memoir. I really enjoyed it. It was very sad. Check the trigger warnings as well. I don't rate memoirs, so this one doesn't even have a rating because I just don't rate them. But it was amazing, beautifully written. Things We Never Got Over. This is not memorable to me very much. I remember the main plots of this, but like I don't have this sort of love for the series as like a lot of people do. I just like it. I enjoy it. It's good. Like I would recommend it for small town lovers, but not the best book I've ever read. The Godparent Trap by Rachel Von Dyken. I actually don't remember reading this at all. I couldn't tell you much about this. That's that one. I don't really remember that one at all. Before We Were Strangers by Renee Carlino. I remember loving this book at the time. It's a second chance, takes place in New York City. I don't remember a lot of it, but I remember crying, sobbing, me like having a mental breakdown over it. Like, because some of the lines in this book are very beautiful, and I remember like, oh, that hit me and hurt me good. Final Offer by Lauren Asher, the third book in the Dreamland Billionaire series. I really enjoyed this. I really liked Callahan. He was definitely one of my favorite brothers. I can't decide between him and Declan. It's always up in the air depending on the day if I like him or Declan more. This is like a second chance romance. Friends to lovers to enemies to lovers or something like that, so set up great for the next series. Throttled by Lauren Asher, the first book in the Dirty Air series. Liked this one. I didn't love it in entirety. Definitely not my favorite in the series. It's a sports romance with F1 racing, but it wasn't my favorite. Collided by Lauren Asher, the second book in that series. Didn't love this one. It was okay. It was better than the first one, but still wasn't the best. I mean, they're good books, but like they're not stuff I think about all the time. Like I don't really think about this series very often, but it was good, but it wasn't the best thing I've ever read. You guys get what I'm saying. Like these are like 3 stars or something. So it was okay. Saving Six by Chloe Walsh. This was a new release when I picked it up. I love this book. It follows Joey and I almost said Aofi. That's how I used to pronounce her name until I realized it was Aoife. So it follows Joey and Aoife. Really love it. It's the 3rd book in the Boys of Tommen series. Recommend it again. Oh my god, these stacks are gonna be the death of me. Next step. Then I read the 3rd book in the Dirty Air series, which is Wrecked. This one was one of my favorites of this series. Definitely better than the first 2. I really enjoyed it. It made me cry, the ending. Then I read my favorite of the Dirty Air series, which is the 4th and final book. This one is definitely the best. The connection in this story was so much better than the first 3, and the characters were also so much better. I thought it was so interesting. It's a fake dating, which, like, I'm not the biggest fan of fake dating, but I'm not a hater of fake dating. Like, I'm pretty medium on it. I really enjoyed it. Santiago can hit my line any day of the week. I love him. Turtles All the Way Down by John Green. I disliked this book a lot. I just, like, didn't love it. Icebreaker by Hannah Grace. This is a hockey romance. When people say it's spice, no plot, kind of like that. There's a plot, but, like, there's a lot of spice and a lot of just, like, learning about the character. But I remember really enjoying this. I loved it. I had a great time reading it. I love Nate Hawkins. Things We Hide from the Light, Lucy's Score. New release this year. I enjoyed it. Not something I think about all the time. I don't really remember anything about this book also. Wow, I actually don't know if I remember anything about this book. So maybe that's a realization I just had. The Simple Wild by K.A. Tucker. Also a book I forget I've read. It's a small town romance, but I remember the end making me cry. So if that holds any merit to you, this end did make me cry. It was very sad. I liked this book, just like not a memorable book, but half of these really aren't like entirely memorable. Like I don't think about them every day, but I mean, just a lot of books to think about every day. Jasper Vale by Devney Perry, new release this year. I liked this one, didn't love it. All Roads Lead Here by Mariana Zapata, one of my favorites. Absolutely love this book so much. It's a slow burn, small town romance, single dad. Like every trope I love ever is in this book. So amazing. Highly recommend it. Like I will rave about this until I'm blue in the face. It's so good. Please go read it if you haven't. Oh my gosh. If He Had Been With Me by Laura Nolan. Nowlin? I don't know how you pronounce it. I've heard so many people say different things than what I say. Nowlin, Nolan, either one. This is a very sad book. It's a YA friends to lovers, I guess. Very sad. I cried. I had a not good time reading it because it was so sad, but I love sad books, so I did enjoy this one. There is a second book coming out in 2024, and I actually don't know if I'm going to read it because I don't want to put myself through that because I know it's going to be even more excruciating. So if I get that book, just know I will not be mentally okay after it because that is so sad. Scarred by Emily McIntyre. I ended up continuing reading this series even though I didn't have the best feelings about Hooked last year. I'm so glad I did. This is one of my favorite dark romance books ever. It's amazing. Absolutely love it. If you don't know what this series is about, it's sort of like, it's a reimagining of villains from Disney stories getting the girl. This one is The Lion King. I really enjoyed this one. And we have one of my least favorite books of the year, In a Jam by Kate Canterbury. I remember enjoying it at the beginning and then I just felt like it dragged on too much. I felt like nothing really happened in this book. If I were to DNF, if I were a DNFer, I would have DNF'd this book. It wasn't that good. I didn't really care for the characters. I thought it was boring and it was way too long. That's my feelings. Sorry. Wretched by Emily McIntyre. This is Wizard of Oz. The girl is the villain in the story. And I remember liking this one, but it wasn't my favorite. Second to least favorite in the series. Redeeming Six by Chloe Walsh, the 4th and final book that is out of the Boys of Tommen series, following Joey and Aoife still. This one is extremely thick. Loved this. If you can't tell, this series is a 5-star series. All of the books in the series have gotten a 5-star for me. I absolutely love it and will rave about it. This is a textbook. I read it in 3 days. That's how much I loved it. Would recommend so much. Twisted by Emily McIntyre, the 4th book in the Never After series. I really liked this one. I enjoyed it much better than Wretched. This is Jafar and Jasmine, I think. The Way I Used to Be by Amber Smith. This is a very sad book as well. Check the trigger warnings on this one. I found myself in tears. It was so emotional, but so good. Would recommend. Say You Swear by Megan Brandy. Also one of my favorites. I really enjoyed this one. It is sort of a sports romance, love triangle-ish. I know there's a lot of people that don't love a trope in here as well, so I'm not gonna mention it. Go In Blind, okay? This book is good, okay? Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. Loved this book. It's a rom-com, but it also deals with mental health and anxiety that I felt like I related to a lot, and the romance was very cute between them. The Love Wager by Lynn Painter, another book that severely disappointed me. I did not like this book at all. I don't even really remember this book. I just remember my bad feelings towards it. I'm sorry. Then I read the entire Kiss Quotient series, so it entails the Kiss Quotient, the Bride Test, and the Heart Principle. These books were good when I read them, cute rom-com. I enjoyed it, but like they're not entirely memorable to me, but I remember liking them in the moment. They were good. Brutal Prince by Sophie Lark. I really enjoyed this book. It's one of my favorites in the series, actually. I feel like I remember this one a lot and I really enjoyed it. This is an enemies to lovers arranged marriage mafia romance. King of Pride by Anna Huang. I did not really enjoy this book at all. I didn't really care for the characters. I thought the romance was really bland. I didn't really like root for the romance very much. I just wasn't the biggest fan of this, and it's really sad because I love King of Wrath and I love the Twisted series, but this one just fell flat for me this year. It was entertaining, just wasn't my favorite. Set on You by Amy Lee. I was really excited for this rom-com, but it ended up falling flat for me. I wasn't the biggest fan of it. I was also starting to get into a slump at this time, so we can also start to blame that. It took me so long to read this book, and I don't know if the book caused this slump or I was just in a slump and it caused me not to like the book. Like, I don't know what caused it, but I was not vibing with this book. I wasn't the biggest fan, and I really don't remember anything about it. I remember wishing it was over. 7 Days in June. I enjoyed this book. It was very, very good, very heartfelt and emotional, and I really enjoyed it. It was amazing. Stolen Heir, the second book in the Brutal Birthright series. This is a kidnapping romance. I enjoyed it. I really liked it. I didn't expect myself to like it because I thought I wasn't into the whole kidnapping thing, but I don't know, I liked it. Savage Lover by Sophie Lark. I remember liking this book, but it wasn't my favorite in the series, but I remember liking it and rooting for the couple. Bloody Heart, my favorite of the series. I absolutely loved this. I loved the storyline. I loved the connection between the characters, and I thought it was so cute, but it also broke my heart into pieces a little bit, but I loved it. Broken Vow. I didn't really like this book at all. I read it during a 24-hour readathon, so I kind of blame that on my feelings for this book. I can't even remember anything about it because I was so sleep deprived, so. Then I started the Chestnut Spring series this year, Flawless by Elsie Silver. I absolutely loved this book. It was the start of my cowboy era. Heartless by Elsie Silver made it into my favorites, obviously. I love this book so much. It is an age gap single dad, nanny single dad trope, so I love it. Powerless, the third book in the Chestnut Spring series. This is a childhood friends to lovers. I loved this book too. I feel like a lot of people didn't like this book, but I enjoyed it. I really liked Jasper. The Housemaid by Frida McFadden. This is a thriller. I really enjoyed this one. One of my favorite thrillers I've read. So good. Frida McFadden's writing is amazing, very quick, and you literally read these books so fast. They're addicting. Reckless by Elsie Silver, my second favorite book in this series. I absolutely devoured this book. I love it. It is a one-night stand, accidental pregnancy, and then obviously they form a relationship after that, but it's so good. Like, I love this one. Theo, chef's kiss, like, so good. A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. I remember liking this book, and I immediately had to get the rest of the series because of how it ended off, and I just feel like this was the start of my fantasy journey. This was actually the start of my fantasy journey. This is the first fantasy book I've ever read as an adult reader. Crimson River by Devney Perry, a new release this year. I remember liking this one. It definitely wasn't my favorite, kind of forgettable a little bit, but I like how this book went into the last book. A Court of Mist and Fury, the second book in the Avatar series. This is my favorite book. I absolutely loved it. I thought this one was so amazing. It was everything to me when I read it. I love it so much. A Court of Wings and Ruin by Sarah J. Maas, the third book. I remember liking this one. It definitely wasn't my favorite. It was kind of really long. But I remember liking it still. Like, I liked the series. A Court of Frost and Starlight, very cute book, very cute novella. You got lots of people's perspectives. I read it in a night. That's how much I enjoyed it. Meet Me at the Lake by Carly Fortune. I did not like this book, which was really disappointing because I liked Every Summer After by this author. I didn't really enjoy this book. There were tropes in here that I didn't love, and I just couldn't root for the couple, so it was a miss. Practice Makes Perfect by Sarah Adams. Probably the only Sarah Adams books I will ever read because I am not a closed door romance girl. Like, that's just not what I prefer. I enjoyed it. I really liked it. I thought some parts of the town aspect and some parts of the female main character, like how she was perceived by the town, was annoying. I didn't really like that, but otherwise I enjoyed the female main character and I enjoyed the connection that they had. So The Nanny by Lana Ferguson. I really enjoyed this book. I really liked the spice in it. I thought it was great. I liked the characters. I just felt like their connection, like their overall like bonding, love connection wise, was kind of missing. So I didn't really love that part. Crossed by Emily McIntyre, newest release in the Never After series. I absolutely loved this book. Certain scene at the beginning of the book was a miss for me, but the rest of it I absolutely loved. Very taboo, I will say. It's literally between a priest and a adult performer. Very forbidden. I don't know if it's taboo. Forbidden. Then I read the last book in the Brutal Birthright series, Heavy Crown. I enjoyed this book. There were many plot twists that I can remember that I absolutely loved and devoured. Woo! That stack is done. I sped through that stack so fast. More Than Words by Mia Sheridan. As we know, Archer's Voice is one of my favorite books. I really loved that book, but this one was a complete miss for me. I really didn't like it. It went by so slow. I remember like reading it and being like, oh my god, when is this gonna end? It was like kind of excruciating, which like, I'm sorry. I didn't like the characters. I didn't really care about the plot as well. I felt like a lot of the characters were annoying and it just like nothing really happened and I was just not vibing with it. Me Before You by Jojo Moyes? I'm sorry. I loved this book. I really enjoyed it. Still haven't watched the movie for it. Very, very sad. Made me cry. Loved the relationship. Oh my god. If I think about it too much, I'll get upset. Magnolia Parks by Jessa Hastings, a very popular book. I read it, I enjoyed it. It was good, it held me entertained. Loved a lot of characters. I love the friendship and the friend group. Daisy Hates, which is absolutely my favorite, one of my favorite reads. I love this book. I love Christian and Daisy. They are just top tier for me. So I'm so glad I read this one and I can't wait to continue with the Magnolia Parks universe. This Things We Left Behind, this is Lucian and Salone's story. I really enjoyed it. Definitely my favorite in the series, I would say. I really liked their relationship. A lot of people said this was disappointing for them, but I thought it was everything and more. I loved Lucian. I thought Salone was so relatable. I loved her. I love this book. Then I read The Natural series by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. So it follows The Natural, Killer Instinct, All In, and Bad Blood. I will say Bad Blood was definitely my favorite. This one and Killer Instinct were my favorite. It's a YA Criminal Minds-esque series. Assistant to the Villain by Hannah Nicole Meyer. I enjoyed it. I think I will continue with the series. It was good. I really liked the fantasy world in this. I really thought it was fun. So I want to read more of like this fantasy world. Kind of like fairy tale-esque. The Dead Romantics by Ashley Pawson. I actually DNF'd this book last year and then I picked it up this year and I absolutely loved it. I think her writing is amazing. I think the storytelling and like the plot of this one was really interesting. It deals with deeper topics in a rom-com, which I absolutely love. The Housemaid's Secret, the second book to The Housemaid by Frida McFadden. I didn't enjoy this one as much as The Housemaid. I feel like I predicted this one more. Mile High by Liz Tomford. I enjoyed this book. I liked the character. It's definitely not my favorite of the series. I liked Stevie. I feel like I related to her a lot and I feel like Xander's was a good mailman character. The Right Move by Liz Tomford, the second book in the Windy City series. This one was definitely my favorite of the series. Made it into my favorites. I love Ryan and Indy. Their relationship is so adorable and I recommend if you're gonna read any book in this series, it's this one. Acts of Service up the wazoo. He's so good. The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Pawson. This one was talked about heavily on the internet and I enjoyed it. I really liked it. I feel like it was good. Hopeless by Elsie Silver. Kind of a disappointing read. I really liked Bailey as a character. I think she made the entire book for me. Did I love Beau in the story? I didn't absolutely love him. I feel like the relationship was just not the best because Beau was such an anticipated character for me. I was really looking forward to it and I feel like there were a lot of issues in this book that were kind of like breezed by and like not really talked about enough. Wildfire by Hannah Grace. I really enjoyed Aurora and Russ's relationship. I don't know if I enjoyed it more than Icebreaker. Maybe I did. It was good. It was a cute rom-com, exactly what I was expecting, so that's good. Caught Up by Liz Tomford, another new release in the Windy City series. Liked this book. The baseball, sports, romance, single dad, nanny situation, kind of like Heartless, so I was really expecting a lot from this. I liked the relationship. I wasn't the biggest fan of the female main character at some points, but I did like her connection with his son and then the relationship between the male main character and the female main character. Still Beating by Jennifer Hartman. I really enjoyed this book. It was so amazing. One of my favorite dark romance reads, I will say. Like the connection that the two characters had was undeniable. Like they are together in every universe and I will preach it from the rooftop. I would check trigger warnings for this one. They go through a lot together and it's very like hard to read about. There Are No Saints and There Is No Devil. I will say I was on a Sophie Lark binge. She was literally my top author of this year. I did not enjoy this at all. I don't think. Like these are some of my least favorite dark romance books. And it wasn't the serial killer part, like because these are about a serial killer. It wasn't that. I just feel like there was some blurred lines of consent and I didn't love that. Not what I love. The Locked Door by Frida McFadden. This is my favorite thriller I've ever read. I was jaw-dropped, gobsmacked at the ending of this book and the plot twist. I was not expecting it in the slightest. And that's what I love about a thriller. If you can just like really shock me into next week, I love it. So this one was good. King of Greed by Anna Huang, newest release in the Kings of Sin series. I enjoyed this book. It was very emotional. I felt a lot for these characters. I loved the connection. Still not my favorite in the Kings of Sin series. Dance of Thieves by Mary E. Pearson. I enjoyed it. It's definitely not one of my favorite series, especially for fantasy, but it was good. I liked it enough to care enough to read the second book. A little confusing, a lot of confusing, if I'm gonna be honest, but I got through it. I powered through. Love Redesigned by Lauren Asher, the newest release by her. This is the start of her new series. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the characters. Then I read one of my favorite reads of this year, Powerless by Lauren Roberts. This is a fantasy read. It's kind of like The Hunger Games. I would recommend, if you're gonna read any fantasy book, read this one. It is something I think about every single day. I wanna reread it every day. It's so good, and if you have any fantasy recs that are like Powerless, please let me know because I will immediately buy it. Love Theoretically by Ali Hazelwood. I liked the book. I liked it much better than The Love Hypothesis, but still not my favorite. But like, they're cute enough rom-coms that I am going to purchase more Ali Hazelwood. I really like her writing. It's just nothing I think about every day, but I did enjoy it a lot. Vow of Thieves by Mary E. Pearson. I liked this book. Still very confusing. Still didn't know what was going on in entirety, and I was on the second book in this duet. So it wasn't my favorite. The Kingmaker by Kennedy Ryan. I know this left off on a cliffhanger, but I have no desire to read the rest of the series. It didn't click with me. It just wasn't for me, this book. I feel like I just didn't like it all that much. Sable Peak, the last book in the Eden series. I liked this book. I enjoyed it. I really liked the female main character and the male main character. I feel like they were done really, really well. And it was a very cute wrap up to the end of this series. Now we're gonna talk about the books I've been thinking about every day since I finished them. The Losers Duet by Harley LaRue. So it is Losers Part 1 and Losers Part 2. This is a series that I would recommend for all the spicy readers that watch me because I am one of them. I just don't read enough of them. So if you have any more recommendations like this series, I would love them. It's a reverse harem Why Choose Romance, and it is so good. They are very character based, basically no plot, and a lot of spice. And check the trigger warnings and the content warnings. I would recommend them with my full chest. I absolutely love them so much. They are 5-star reads for me. I really think about these books every day, and I'm not exaggerating. I love these books so much, and I love the characters, the way you just grow attached to them. I want to read more by Harley LaRue because the way that they wrote this, I was gobsmacked. Like, their writing is so good. Last books that I read are the Christmas books. So I read Talk Santa to Me by Linda Urban, All I Want for Christmas by Aggie Knox. This book I really did not enjoy at all. It was super cheesy. If you're looking for a cute YA romance, sure. But for me, it was a mess. I just feel like the romance wasn't there, and I feel like it was super cheesy to the point where I didn't enjoy it. This one I enjoyed. I would really recommend this one if you're looking for a Christmas romance. Very, very cute. The characters had more depth and more to their story and more background. The connection between the characters was great. So it's exactly what I wanted from a romance Christmas book. That is the end of this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I know this was a kind of long one. I don't know how long it is. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know how many books you read this year, if you reached your reading goal. It's okay if you didn't. Like, I know this is a lot of books to read in one year, so if you didn't read this many books or you didn't reach your reading goal, it is okay. Even if you read one book this year, that is amazing. It is not a competition. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, give this video a thumbs up and subscribe if you want to see more of my face and more of my videos, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. Bye!